Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everyone. This is Joanne Victoria with another amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. You are here to discover a life of clarity, confidence, sanity, and entrepreneurial success. And today's guest is extraordinary. Her name is Tiffany Harnsongkram. And Tiffany is the founder of From Divorce to Destiny and Chief Human Officer of Human Unlimited, a Tech for Good foundation. For years, Tiffany organized family office conferences and retreats worldwide on the topics of self-development and impact. Tiffany also serves as advisor for organizations including Women, Men, Nexus, Human Unlimited, Ethical Markets, and Njovu Kids Foundation. Tiffany also has 3 nationalities and 3 continents, which I'll let her tell you about, which she calls home. Through this small world lens, her life mission is to bring people to a consciousness of oneness and meaning in our lives. Tiffany holds a master's in territorial development and a certification as a Soma therapist. Tiffany knows that the real victories are not in the courtroom. They are in our ability to claim our power, our sacred life's purpose. And welcome to the show, Tiffany.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. My goodness, it's so complete. I wonder what I can add to it.
Well, heaven knows, I'm sure we have something that we can discuss. And, as to what you're going to talk about is why you're here today, how you got to be here today, and how you help divorcees not only survive, but thrive using elevated consciousness techniques. So how did you get to this place, Tiffany?
Yeah, so, my divorce journey and how I came to this topic started in 2012. And I had been married for 7 years with 2 young daughters. And I was the one that decided to leave. My marriage was not a real partnership. I was in a situation where I felt like I no longer existed anymore. My desires or goals or life purpose were non-existent in that relationship. And I felt myself withering away. And, there are so many labels that we can put on different kinds of abuse, whether it's emotional abuse or financial abuse through control, or, these different ways that we treat each other in relationships when we are trying to control, when we're trying to dominate, when we're fearful, or when we're quite simply mismatched. And so when I left, it began a journey of, challenge and struggle, but also liberation, because it was a difficult path, a high conflict path. I ended up in court for several years. There were issues of custody. I ended up really penniless and was tested and tried to all my limits. The biggest limit being my religious beliefs, the way that I grew up and my traditional family values. All of those I had to re-examine, and many of those I had to let go of as far as how I pictured my life to look, the dreams that I had, the way that I identified myself. I had to re-examine those and rebuild myself. And through that re-examination, I really found myself. I discovered who I was. And I think the process was so long and many times grueling and difficult because I didn't know where to go. I didn't have the guidance to find the way through my divorce internally, in my soul, in my consciousness, in my identity, in who I was, the things that, were really being reinvented and being tested in me. So as I was focused on court documents and financial issues and custody issues and all of those issues, there was this entire rebirth happening within myself. And so I went through that journey realizing that it brought me a sense of rebirth in every area of life. I mean, the life that I live now, I couldn't have even dreamt of 10 years ago. In the state that I was then, I couldn't have even thought it was possible. Even the life that I was living 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought it was possible. But, this reinvention and rebirth of myself into coming to terms with who I really was and what I really wanted from life, brought me so much richness in every area of life that, I realized that it was something that I felt, what was not being taught out there, especially in the context of divorce. The conversations that we hear about divorce, right, are just horrific kind of
terrible
war stories or failure stories or sadness or, getting stuck in sadness or, I wasn't hearing the other side of the story, the side of coming back to yourself.
Well, I think you were lucky. I know it sounds like a strange thing to say, but it's as if you went through the eye of the needle and came out the other side more complete. I say you were lucky is that not every person or woman is able to go through what you went through and come out feeling more whole than when you entered this situation. You were able to transform within the context of strife and struggle, and not many are able to do that. They hold on to their anger, which I think you might speak to. Their consciousness goes awry. They don't have any handle on their own consciousness or anybody else's for that matter, and they get all I see is this explosion of fears. And the fear reaching out to all areas of their life, from their personal life to their business life and anything in between, and any person in between, including family. So,
yeah, you're right about that. I think, one of the key kind of terms that I came to when I started coaching people on their divorce journeys, realizing that there weren't people out there speaking about things in the same language that I was in terms of divorcing in a conscious way, is that it just, how to explain it? It was, there is, this story that we grew up with, this program that we grew up with. And I think that coaching is not so much guiding or explaining what to do as it is deprogramming these stories that we have within us that we grew up with and replacing them with more whole, more healthy stories. When you talk about, people who are stuck in pain or people who are stuck in anger and fear, it makes sense because the stories that we grew up with are, if you're divorced, you're a failure, or nobody's going to want a single mother with children, or somebody must be blamed for the failure of the marriage. Are you the person to blame? Are you a bad person? Or, there's so many fear stories about how we've messed up, how something's gone wrong, how there must be a war afterwards, or there must be some pain involved, and we never are taught the option of the lens of love, the lens of compassion when we're looking at this, understanding that the ideas that we have about marriage and the way we grew up with the ideas of marriage are not, in fact, truth, are not, in fact, reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that they're not reality. They're it's what the stories are that our parents and the rest of our family have tagged onto us, and we bought it, hook, line, and sinker. All of that.
Women especially.
So
women especially. Yeah.
Oh, women especially. Yeah. That's what we're talking. That's who we're speaking to today. And for the men who are listening, we're not ignoring you, because what Tiffany is speaking to today affects you as well. If you feel as though you identify with what she is saying, we will give you a way to get in touch with her at the end of this podcast. But primarily, women are the ones who suffer the most. And men may think they suffer because women want alimony or something, whatever it is that they don't want to give. But that's not what this is all about. Those are just things. This is not about, this is not about the consciousness of people. This is what Tiffany is speaking to. And speaking about conscious, I know many people who are listening have heard the word conscious divorce or conscious separation in the media with certain movie stars, etc., or people who think they are movie stars. So could you define your perspective on a conscious divorce?
Right. So, I mean, ideally, what would happen in a conscious divorce or a conscious uncoupling is that you have both parties, both people who are living in mutual respect and care for one another, who want the best outcome for each other and are able to hold the possibility that that might not be with each other or in each other's control. So what you want for your life and your life trajectory and where you want to go, the things you want to discover and the things that you need for yourself to grow and flourish may not be things that I want or things that I can provide you, and have that be okay. Have me not own you or me not own your future, and just agree that, just because we're not married anymore doesn't mean we don't love each other anymore. It doesn't mean we don't support each other anymore. It doesn't mean we're not family anymore. It just simply means that we are taking stock of what we need and what we want and how our lives are going to flourish, and figuring out what the best configuration is for both people to flourish. Because if one person is flourishing and the other person is not, that's not a partnership.
Correct.
That's not a healthy marriage. So this is best case scenario, which is rare. It happens. It's beautiful. Sometimes even more beautiful than a marriage, I think, because it takes a huge amount of love, unconditional love, to be able to want the best for the other person, even if it's not something that you want for yourself. So, but many times it's just one person wanting to take this route, and then the other person still stuck in the stories of, you've rejected me, you hurt me, you said you were going to be here forever, you were supposed to be this for me, you were supposed to be that for me. That they might be stuck there. And so that's where that was my experience, was the experience of wanting to go through a divorce consciously and wanting to take the road of acceptance and love, but not having the tools and not having the partner to meet me there, and having to go through that myself in a highly conflictual situation. I don't think it was an accident that I went through the number of difficulties and conflicts that I went through and the different flavors and aspects that I went through. I think that was a toolkit for me to be able to see all of the different aspects and challenges that might come up. And now gives me a more holistic view of, in some of the most extreme circumstances, how do you still stay in acceptance, love, and understanding? And when you get to that point of understanding, you understand why it all happened, and then it all makes sense.
As I said before, you were lucky. I'll just say fortunate, because you came out the other side with knowledge and information on how to help others do what you did in a conscious way, in a loving way, which I think people have denigrated when, as I say, to my knowledge, movie stars, etc., musicians come out and say they're in a conscious divorce, and people make fun of it, going, what does that mean? And I think these are people, again, who are living with their stories and do not understand what loving oneself is all about, because that's where it has to start. You love yourself, and you did parent children with this partner. So there must have been something at some time together. And for you to have the tools and provide the tools to these people now, I think is extraordinary. And I said that word, people, extraordinary. And for those of you who know me, please get your pad and paper out and start taking notes. So you say there are special topics within this area to handle. One of them is religious guilt and shame and high conflict co-parenting, as well as the psychology around money. And those seem to be the top three. money co-parenting. And well, this is, in some instances, this is where the male may have all the power as far as the money goes, because that's been our legacy. Our legacy as women, coming out broke and being grateful to just get out. The religious guilt.
That's most often the case. Yeah.
Yes. And the high conflict co-parenting goes along with that, because you have two angry parents and the kids don't know what's going on. And also this guilt and shame, religious guilt and shame. So and I know that there are a lot of female entrepreneurs as well as male entrepreneurs, but female entrepreneurs who are listening to this podcast who have had at least one divorce. And I say that because sometimes people remarry because they're looking for the right thing to occur in their lives with another human being. But it starts with yourself, first, last, and always. So how can you talk to people about, is this religious shame and guilt or just shame?
Right. So I think first we have to start off with the premise that this is a normal life transition. Most people will have 7 relationships in their lifetime, with 2 or 3 of them being major committed relationships in their lifetime. So, the loss of a partner or transitioning out of a relationship is a normal life happenstance. And in many religions, in many of the core religions, this is treated as abnormal or an aberration or a shame or a sin.
A sin. Yes.
And the thing is that, when I went through, and I went to seminary, I went to theological university, and I studied theology and the Bible very, at depth. And when we go through, what the verses are actually saying, what they mean, what's the context behind it, things are very twisted in the way they're taught. And it's obvious that many of the teachings right now are heavily tinted with the arc of our culture and the patriarchy that has come about in there. So I have to start with that. But regardless of that, the shame or the guilt that comes with the audacity to reclaim your life, or to say that, I am worth more than this, or I deserve more than this, or I deserve to get out at very least of an unhealthy partnership. Because what I've found is that the main reason why women are staying in unhealthy relationships, and some men as well, but many times women will bring up religion as the key point to why they haven't left their even abusive marriage, which is a travesty. It's terrible to say that church teachings or religious dogma or beliefs that have come down, that aren't even accurate, by the way, are keeping people in abusive situations and not actually living their potential, not living their lives, not being fulfilled, not even feeling alive many times.
Again, that's the story.
Right.
That was passed down to them or given to them, and then they bought it.
Right. And it needs to be corrected. It needs to be corrected in a very bird's eye view. The bird's eye view is you are sacred. You are divine. You are meant to live your life to your fullest potential in the most audacious, most fully you, authentic way possible. The detailed view is actually going into the different translations and the different verses and different arguments for people who are intellectuals, very heady, and want that level of information. That is also there. But regardless, both roads lead to the same place, which is, if your soul is dying in the relationship, it's not good for your spiritual life.
Correct. But I say again, most people don't even recognize what's going on within themselves while they are in the drama and tragedy of divorce. They have not taken that time. So how can you tell people today, for example, let's just say somebody may call you, they may not call you, but if somebody is listening to this going, that's me, Tiffany is talking about me, Joanne's talking about me, I hear me coming out, I'm in pain, but I don't know what to do. What is their first step?
Well, it is a confusing time, I have to say. If I were to teletransport myself back to my state of mind when I was in the thick of it, I felt like my mind was in a washing machine. There was so much going on. Sometimes I was just trying to keep it together, just trying to get a meal on the table for the children, just figuring out how to get the laundry done while getting my legal paperwork done. And you can't really see from that vantage point. It feels like a big empty void. It feels like chaos. It feels like you can't see into the future because you're just trying to see this week. And when you're at that juncture, it really helps to have somebody that can see from the outside and that can say, don't worry, in 6 months, all of this will have changed. This is what you need to focus on. This is where you need to go. If you're a little bit past that survival stage, that fight or flight stage, and you're able to be in a calm place, then you can follow a methodology. I have my own methodology, which is in my Thriving Through Divorce course. You don't have to follow that specific methodology. I was just trying to condense it. But really, there are steps that you can take to understanding who you are and where you are, understanding what's happened and learning how to mourn that and letting go of what you thought should be, what happened in the past. And then you can step into the reclamation of who you are, what you want to create, what new goals and dreams would look like, what a new future would look like, allowing yourself to vision into that and believe into that and create into that, and step into love and grace, not only for yourself, which is first, but it extends out to your family. It extends out, eventually to your ex, or whoever you're in conflict with. It's just, when you come to that deep understanding of, oh my goodness, that's why this all happened. Mm-hmm. That was the journey. Then it's all covered in love and compassion. And then, then you can really claim your resilience. You can claim your power. You can claim your voice with a deeper, more profound understanding of the power of the journey that you've just been through.
I hear you. I hear every word that you are saying. And God, I wish you were around a long time ago when I was going through this myself. But, as you learned, so did I. And we all have our paths to take in life. And you're helping people be on a path for healing and a consciousness arousal of feelings inside. So you talked about this course that you have, this e-course called Thriving Through Divorce. Where can our listeners find it?
The e-course is on my website. The link is there, and you can see what's included in the e-course. It's mostly videos, but there are quite a lot of exercises. I mean, you mentioned the money power and psychology of money module, which I think is really important when you're dealing with foundational fears that one might have going through divorce and decisions that you might be making financially. That's included in there, as well as several different master courses about raising children through divorce and kind of specialty topics, taking care of your physical health, things like that. So those are all online through exercises and videos on my website, as well as any one-on-one support that people might need.
And Tiffany's website is called FromDivorceToDestiny.com. FromDivorceToDestiny.com. to destiny.com. And I don't think I need to spell those words out for you. And I want those who are listening to re-listen to this podcast with your pen and paper, however you want to do it, but do it by hand, because it's a different connection to learning when you're writing something down as opposed to when you're typing something. And I want to thank Tiffany for being here. Do you have any final words for our audience, Tiffany?
I don't know how final these words are because it's all a process. I think we need to come to terms with the way we've been treating each other in relationship and in breaking up. There's a much more beautiful, much more conscious way to do that going forward. And when we educate ourselves about how we can grow through conflict and how we can learn through conflict and treat each other through conflict, it serves us in our relationships too. And it can be an empowering, healing process towards reconnecting with ourselves at our base core and who we really are, which is we really are love. We really are connection. And we let things get in the way of that.
Thank you. Those are profound words. And I want to take a moment also to ask people, if they want to go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com and sign up for a free book called The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. I want to thank Tiffany for being here today. I want to thank my listeners for being here today. And everybody, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.